A ship drifting at sea, no power, no clean water, and human waste backing up into cabins. It's not a horror movie. It really happened to over 4,000 passengers aboard the Carnival Triumph, an incident the media famously dubbed the Poop Cruise. But think you already know the whole story? Think again. A new Netflix documentary just dug deep into the aftermath of the event and uncovered shocking details far beyond what was ever made public. Why did the ship's systems fail so catastrophically? How did passengers survive 5 terrifying days at sea? And what has Carnival possibly been hiding for over a decade? Let's find out on today's episode of Cruise Now. Before we continue, please support my new channel by hitting the subscribe button so I can reach my first 500 subscribers. Useful news will be updated daily on the channel. Thank you so much. More than a decade later, the Poop Cruise is still brought up every time people talk about the risks of cruising. But why does it continue to haunt the industry? It's not just because of the smell or the horrendous conditions. It's because the incident shattered the illusion of safety and luxury that the cruise industry had spent years carefully building. Before that, many people saw cruising as a floating paradise with endless buffets, spas, and infinity pools. But the Carnival Triumph disaster revealed a harsh truth. Just one small incident, in this case, an engine fire, can trigger a catastrophic chain reaction. Power fails, air conditioning shuts down, clean water stops flowing, and toilets back up. Passengers can suddenly find themselves stranded at sea in near medieval conditions. No electricity, no working toilets, eating cold sandwiches, and sleeping on deck. And worst of all, cruise lines might not be prepared to handle a real crisis when it strikes. Public trust in the cruise industry took a serious hit after that. Carnival had to spend hundreds of millions of dollars upgrading its technical systems. Other cruise lines rushed to improve emergency training, invest in backup power systems, and become more transparent in times of crisis. But media scars don't heal easily. The Poop Cruise wasn't just a mishap. It became a symbol of an overconfident system that paid a heavy price. And that's why even today, whenever a ship leaks, power fails, or passengers are forced to sleep outside, the name Poop Cruise resurfaces like a nightmare that refuses to go away. To widespread relief, however, the saga ended with passengers kissing the ground and laughing off the calamity as they disembarked. When you hear Poop Cruise, you think, okay, says BAFTA-nominated director James Ross, but actually there's a lot more layers and twists and turns to the story. Poop Cruise doesn't just dive headfirst into the graphic details. It deftly walks the line between the serious and the side-splitting while reconstructing the epic yarn in 360 degrees. Here are some of the most shocking details about what life was really like for a passenger aboard the infamous Poop Cruise. Passengers had originally signed up for a 4-day round-trip cruise from Galveston, Texas to Cozumel, Mexico. The outbound journey to Mexico went smoothly. People partied on deck, enjoyed the sun, and indulged in lavish buffet spreads. But on day 4, as the ship was making its way back to the U.S., passengers were jolted awake in the middle of the night by an emergency alarm summoning the Alpha team due to a fire. By sunrise, the cruise director announced over the intercom that everything was under control. But then suddenly, all the lights went out. The crew had to scramble to come up with backup plans for the bathrooms, as the toilets could no longer flush without power. Some passengers removed emergency lights from life jackets and poured water on them to make them blink, just so they could see inside the dark bathrooms. Crew members instructed everyone to urinate in the bathrooms, but distributed red biohazard bags for solid waste. Once the trash bins overflowed, passengers were told to leave the red bags in the hallway, and soon the ship began to reek. Not everyone followed the rules. Devin, a passenger traveling with his fiance's parents, filmed the chaos on his phone. You walk down a hallway and all of a sudden, squish, 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 we were in excrement, he says in the film. Cafeteria floors were reportedly covered in urine and feces. One crew member, Abhi, described seeing what he called a poop lasagna, layers of feces, toilet paper, and more feces stacked in a single bathroom. There were other problems. One chef described struggling to make lettuce sandwiches without working refrigeration. With no air conditioning, cabins became unbearably hot, forcing passengers to drag mattresses onto the open deck and sleep outside. According to a doctor on board, some passengers even had sex outdoors. When the Carnival Triumph first broke down, there was no cell service. As a 12-year-old, it was terrifying not being able to talk to my mom, said Rebecca, a passenger traveling with her father. Eventually, when another cruise ship passed nearby, passengers on the Triumph were able to briefly connect to its cell signal. They quickly made phone calls and shared photos and videos, and that's how news of the disaster began leaking to the media. After what became known as the Poop Cruise, the Carnival Triumph was renamed Carnival Sunrise. Following the incident, Carnival spent $115 million to clean, repair, and completely refurbish the Triumph. The Netflix documentary explains, today it continues to operate under its new name, Carnival Sunrise. The renaming was seen by many as a calculated move, aimed at distancing the ship from the infamous 2013 incident. Carnival poured millions into revamping the vessel, along with others in its fleet, and as part of that overhaul, the Triumph was rebranded entirely. The goal was to leave behind any association with that ill-fated voyage. Reports also indicated that ticket sales had dropped following the incident, which came as no surprise. The new name was meant to signal a fresh start for the ship, and perhaps to quietly hope people would forget what had happened. But of course, no one would ever admit that publicly. Christine Duffy, president of Carnival Cruise Line, said at the time, "The launch of Carnival Sunrise will provide our guests with an exciting array of dining, bar, and entertainment options. The new Carnival Sunrise is part of our multi-billion-dollar fleet enhancement program that is transforming our ships on an unprecedented scale." The ship was officially renamed during a ceremony held on May 23, 2019, in New York. Today, it continues to sail routes around the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Carnival Cruises issued a statement regarding the Netflix documentary, calling the incident a learning moment. The company said it had invested millions in improvements since then and would continue to operate at these high standards. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode of Cruise Now.